Hello, and welcome to the CFES live chat. We're excited to have Steve Booker, the Director of Financial Aid at Rollins College, here to give a short presentation and to answer your questions about paying for college. Before he begins, just a few reminders. We'll be recording today's chat and making it available to everyone in the CFES network, so I'd like to ask everyone to please mute your microphones unless you are asking a question. And in order to mute your microphone, you just hit the blue button that sort of looks like a microphone and it'll cross it out for you. So Steve, thank you for being here with us today, and go ahead and start whenever you're ready.
Well, it's my pleasure, and thanks for having me. What I'd like to do really in the next few minutes is I was asked to talk a little bit about some tips about financial aid. What are some things that students and even educators can be looking at right now to make sure you're prepared for when you're ready to file for financial aid. So maybe I'll start with either guidance counselors or educators, anyone that's out there that helps students. I always recommend that you do the FAFSA yourself. If you can go out there and do that main financial aid form, the FAFSA, for your application for federal student aid, that way you get a feel for the questions that are being asked, get a feel for what the students' parents go through. I think that's really helpful. I do it every year. Even though I've been this now for over 20 years, I find something new, or things change every year, so it's good to at least experience it. You don't have to list any colleges on there, so it doesn't go anywhere. You don't have to worry about it, and you can make up whatever data you want, but that way you can see the questions that are being asked. The other suggestion I have is to look, if you're so inclined, is to look at the actual calculation of how the expected family contribution is derived. Is a federal formula, so you could just go to Google or whatever it's like and type in EFC or expected family contribution, and it'll come up with worksheets on how to do it. So again, I do this every year as well, and that way I make sure that I understand what is important in the FAFSA, what income changes things, how does that change that amount of aid that we receive. So those are two of the tips I think that not fun to do, of course, but I think you'll be well versed in it. Understand the FAFSA and the financial aid formulas a lot better by components of it. So that's why I encourage you to do this. The other main form that's out there is the CSS profile. So that's like the FAFSA, but it's a requirement for some colleges to request some additional information to get a better feel for that applicant. So that one you might take a look at as well. The formula is not available publicly, but you can look at the forms that are out there, see what the questions are. But basically, the colleges that use the profile are trying to get at, is there other income in the household, another asset, like the value of 401ks, value of home. There might be a non-custodial parent. So what they're trying to do is to allocate the resources to the most needy. So if you look at two different families, if one family has $20,000 of income, but they have a non-custodial parent with an extra $50,000 of income, and they truly have they might have, some additional opportunities to help pay that tuition bill. Whereas if the other family just has the $20,000 and they don't have those other options. So I think that's the purpose behind the profile. So as a counselor or an educator, it's important to make sure the students ask those questions. Does the school require a profile? Or do they have an institutional application? Or is it just the FAFSA? So it's one of the first questions I always have students ask. Most schools just require the FAFSA, but there are, I think, a number of about right now that require the profile. So again, just ask the questions. You know what forms to do. And the other thing we recommend for students to do is keep a calendar, so you know what the deadlines are, what timelines are, to fill out. The federal government themselves have a very date. There's no real date on the profile, but the institution has a specific date that they want those forms completed by, because there are certain dollars that are limited. So when that school is awarding all of their financial aid, they want to make sure that the students who file first have the best opportunity, and your students want that. So make sure they adhere to those deadlines and ask what those deadlines are. In terms of kind of overall suggestions or tips for students that are maybe starting out. It all depends on where they're at in the process. So right now we're in December, so if your student's a senior planning on starting next fall in August, deadlines are extremely important. They have to really adhere to those deadlines, find out what they are, find out what the forms are, get them all in line so they know and can get their things in on time. And we always hate as financial aid experts when we hear from students and say, "Oh, I didn't know about that deadline," and we know they missed out on financial aid. So please work with the students on making sure they get their forms in on time and adhere to those deadlines. The other thing are starting to look for scholarships. So not only does that institution have scholarships, in many cases, they're outside scholarships that are available for students. And there's lots of sites you can again, go to Google or whatever internet search engine you like and type in scholarships. We always recommend fastbook.com, but again, there's a number of them out there. CapEx, SchoolSoup, again, a number of them out there that are free to use and great resources to use. So students sign up, create kind of a profile, and that way it matches them up with different scholarships that they can qualify for, and helps narrow down that field a little bit, and then students can start to complete their applications. And we encourage students to do that as early on as possible. So for our seniors, definitely now you want to do it. Most of those scholarships come available in the spring. And if you do your profile now, you can have everything set up and be ready to go for when those scholarships come out. And you can start making your application, getting those things in. You can even start working on some essays. So if you come up with a few general essays that has kind of a framework, maybe talk about who you are, what you're passionate about. That's a good starting place. And work on that type of essay. Then once the scholarships come out there, if it requires an essay and it's one you've already done or started, now you can tweak or really have the time to put into it and put together a great essay. And then in terms of specifics, when you're doing the application and essays, please encourage your students to have someone proofread them, whether it's you or whether it's parents or someone else that proofreads everything. We highly encourage that. Students get so involved in it, sometimes they'll misspell some things, they'll leave things out, and schools, if they're offering scholarships, or the outside organizations that are offering scholarships, they get sometimes thousands of these applications in, and if there are misspellings or errors in it, it a lot of times takes them out of the running right away. So make sure that someone's proofreading those things. And then also it helps for those seniors to start talking to people around about recommendations, talking with guidance counselors, teachers, helping with those recommendations, whether it's even for the admission process, but even for scholarships, sometimes recommendations are asked for. So for those of you that have students that are younger than seniors in high school, whether they're a junior in high school or even as young as middle school, it's still not too early to start planning and thinking about what's next. So if you're in high school, find seniors that are going to be getting scholarships, and then ask them in April, May, June, what scholarships did they get? How did they apply for them? Because you might uncover some other scholarships that you weren't aware of, or maybe you weren't able to apply for that you can then apply for once you're a senior. Just keep those in your hip pocket and ways to receive some additional dollars. If you're in high school, you can also sign up for FastWeb right now or any of the other scholarship search engines. And again, get that profile, get some of those basic essays ready, get some of the recommendations ready, and that way you're not scrambling around at the last minute to try and get those things done. One of the stories I tell and it might be a little much, but I think it's appropriate. Years ago, when I was back in the Midwest, I tell the story of for outside scholarships, you have to spend literally hours to apply for scholarships to get even a little bit. And I had a student come up to me and say, I took your advice, I spent all this time, and all I got was a $500 scholarship. I said, well, that's great. That's $500 in free money that you didn't have. And he said, yeah, but it took all this time, and it was a waste of my time. I said, well, let's do the math. How many hours did you spend? And of course, I said, I don't know. Hemmed and hawed. And so we said, let's just estimate it at 10 hours that you spent on it. And you earned a $500 scholarship. That I'm not a math major, but 500 divided by 10 is $50 an hour that you just earned. No other job can you make that kind of money right now. So you have to spend the time to get it. What happens if you had to spend 20 hours on application? Could you have gotten 1,000? Maybe. It doesn't not as linear as that, but it just means you have to put the time and effort into it to get those scholarships. And what we find at the university level is not a lot of students come in with outside scholarships. A few students come in with a lot of outside scholarships because they put the time and effort into getting those scholarships. So again, it's never too early to start. Start planning, start building those essays, building that profile, so you can apply for those outside scholarships. And then if you're in middle school, the kind of analogy I always give is there are things that you can do right now to put you in a good position so when you get to high school, you can improve your grades and do really well in school. So there are things that you might like to get, and to do those things, let's plan on getting good grades in school. So right now in middle school, focus on your grades, getting good grades, studying hard, reading a book every week, finding a new book, reading. There's been plenty of surveys out there and studies to show that students who read a lot do very well in their studies, whether it's in high school or on the college. So start reading now in middle school. And get involved in outside activities, even at the middle school level. So once you get to high school, it's just natural. You're planning on doing it. It's what you've always done. You got good study habits because your grades are important from that freshman year on in high school. So those are some kind of general suggestions or tips that I have on scholarships. In terms of financial aid and need-based aid in particular, as an underclassman, it's a little bit difficult because most students, quite frankly, aren't that interested in financial aid. They're looking at scholarships, and they should be focused on scholarships. Parents are the ones that are interested at that point. And what we encourage families to do is don't self-select yourself out of a certain college based on the cost. Most colleges refer to it as like sticker price. There's the cost that you see out there, but there's also a net price. Students can qualify for scholarships, need-based grants, and other scholarships that might be through outside of that college that can help reduce that cost. And then if you have to, then there's student loans that you could look at and maybe work study to go to that school. But don't self-select yourself out up front. Take a look if that school is a good fit for your student. Have some options out there, and then see what scholarships they might qualify for. Do all your due diligence and work to get those scholarships, and then fill out all the appropriate financial aid forms to see if you qualify for financial aid. So for current seniors, you're going to start that process in January. January 1st is when the new financial aid form opens up. Don't file it on January 1st. You'll get it wrong. We have students every year that file it, and the FAFSA is based on your tax returns, and it is very difficult to get your tax returns exactly right until you're ready to file. So we always encourage families to wait till they've done their tax returns, then do the FAFSA. Because what will happen is if you estimate the FAFSA, send it in, that college is going to base their award letter on what you put on the FAFSA. If you then later submit your tax returns and it's vastly different, your aid is going to be completely different. So try and get it right the first time. And that way the FAFSA is right, the award letter is right. Once that school has it, they'll send out the award letter, and that'll help you determine the amount of grants and scholarships you can receive from that college. So again, check with, the other key to that is checking on deadlines, earlier that I mentioned. Some schools require an early deadline of February or March, and that's again because certain dollars do run out, whether it's that institution's funds or other campus-based grants. So adhere to those deadlines and get your financial aid application in as quickly as possible. For juniors and other students that are in high school, I would encourage you to go out and look at what's called a net price calculator. Every school is required to have this. So again, go to your favorite internet search engine, type in net price calculator, the name of the college, should take you right to that college. And you can then enter your information, so your income information, and a lot of them also ask for academic information because it'll put together a total award for you based on scholarships and grants. But that'll give you a good idea early on what types of aid you can expect from that school. So again, for juniors, if you're curious about it, you can go do that. At any age, you can do it, and it's free. You might ask for your information. You don't have to put your name or address or anything, so you can make it anonymous. So if you're just shopping around and trying to see some net prices, and that'll give you a really good idea for that college what that net price will be. The other thing, going back to seniors, the other thing that I encourage you to take advantage of is something called College Goals Sunday. This happens every February. Again, if you go do an internet search for College Bowl Sunday for your state, it should come up with the date so you know when it is. And it's typically a Sunday. Down in Florida, we have both Saturday and Sunday. I don't know why, but it is College Bowl Sunday on Saturday. And what we do is at different sites across the state, usually administrators like myself and others go out to high schools and other places and help students fill out the FAFSA. It doesn't matter where they're going to college. Our goal is to help that student that comes in the door fill out that financial aid form so they can go to school wherever it is they want to go and meet the deadlines and get it right the first time so they have enough aid to go to whatever school again they're interested in. So it's available, I believe, in most states, if not every state. And I'd highly encourage you to look at it. It is free, and there are financial aid experts there to help you fill out that FAFSA. So if you're a senior, or seniors in school, please encourage them to do that. The other thing that's changing and that's kind of exciting, I guess, for us financial aid geeks is this thing, you're going to hear more about it later in the year, called prior. So what that means is, in the past, so again, actually current seniors will fill out the FAFSA in January. That's the way it's always been. Typically January through April is the main financial aid window. But as you know, most deadlines are May 1st for students to make their admission decision. That's the way it's been for as long as I've been around. With this new law that's taking place called prior, new regulation, students will actually be able to fill out their FAFSA starting next October. So October of 2016, your current juniors, who will then be seniors in high school, can fill out the FAFSA in October of 2016 and conceivably get a financial aid offer in the fall once they get their admission decision, if they're able to get the admission decision earlier. So that gives them another 3 months, or actually more than that, at least 3 months extra to help weigh the financial aid decision, what the costs are, make sure it's affordable, make sure they understand what the award letter is and what all the terminology is. And the other big thing is it's going to be based on the prior year's income. So you will have already done your tax returns. This will be based on 2015 income. So as we all know, our taxes are due April 15th of 2016. We'll have had it done by then. So in October of 2016, you can use your tax return. It's already been done back in April. You know the information will be right. The FAFSA will be right the first time. The award letters will be right. It's going to be a lot easier for students, a lot cleaner for families to fill out that financial aid form. Whereas right now, again, you're trying to get your tax returns done before you do the FAFSA or you're estimating, and again, that leads to some confusion and some incorrect information. So it's really exciting for us because we know the information will be right coming in. We think it'll really help families out. It'll help them get their financial aid earlier and hopefully help make good decisions on the awards, making sure they're going to the right place that's a good fit, but also that they can financially afford as well. So those are the main things to look at. The other thing that I'll put out there is kind of some suggestions is when you get that financial aid award offer, if you're not sure of what it means, talk to that financial aid office. We're willing to talk with you. We want to make sure families understand what's on that award letter. We want to make sure you understand if it's a grant, if it's a scholarship, if it's a loan, or if it's work study. Because students need to be aware of that. Taking out loans, they need to know that from the get-go and what that repayment looks like. They need to know if it's a scholarship, what's the renewal criteria. They need to maintain a 3.0 average, is it less than that, more than that. So we want to make sure they fully understand that. So it's very important that your students feel free to talk with the financial aid office, regardless of where they're going. I've been at several different schools. I've worked at several different schools. And it's the way it's always been. We've always wanted to talk with students. We want to make sure they understand it. So please make sure you communicate with that office. And it kind of as a fail-safe, if you ever run into an issue where you can't get a hold of someone at that school and you're not sure, you're not getting the right information, I'm always happy to do it. Contact Chelsea and she'll get in touch with me, and I'm happy to review any information that you'd like. Again, it has nothing to do with Rollins. This is about making sure students can go to college and making sure that they get the financial aid offers that they're entitled to and can maximize all their financial aid options. So with that, I think I'll turn it over. If you guys have any questions or anything that you'd like to hear about, I'm happy to answer those.
So thanks, Steve. That's great. One of the questions that we received from our participants was, is a financial aid package negotiable?
The answer is no, but it's also dependent upon the school. Most schools don't like to tell you it's negotiable, so you'll hear no up front. And for most schools, they're not going to negotiate. And the reason why is that it doesn't feel right in a way because it's not fair. What we try to do and what most financial aid offices try to do is award the best amount up front that every school student is eligible for. But having said that, what we always do at Rollins, again, all the schools I've been at in the same way, we'll tell students, send us the award letter, let us take a look at it. If we miss something, absolutely, we'll figure it out and see why they awarded you something that we didn't and award it at that point. So there's very rare, but there have been cases where maybe they had other circumstances that they told the school about but didn't tell us about. So that helps open up that dialogue to say, oh, your income's going to be less this year than it was last year. And you told some of the school, we didn't tell us that. Okay, here's what we need, and let's work through that. So now we can adjust that award number. But kind of in general, the answer is no. Most awards are not just negotiable because someone says, I need more money. The answer typically is no, but that does open the door for us to then say, well, what's going on in your circumstance? Are there things going on that is impeding your financial ability or is a tie on your financials so you're not able to contribute to college? Maybe it's medical expenses, maybe again the loss of a job or reduction of income, things that we can then take a look at and go beyond that. But the FAFSA, everything has to fit in a little box. We don't want any extra marks or any essay written with it. Whereas each financial aid office would love to talk with those families and see what the circumstances are. If there's anything we can do, we absolutely want it.
Perfect. And I'll open the floor up to anyone. If you have a question, you can unmute your mic and feel free to ask it. So if you have a question, you can go ahead and do that now. Otherwise, I'll continue with a few that we received. Okay, so what advice do you have for parents who haven't done the financial aid process before?
One of the things that I'd recommend is going to a financial aid night. So a lot of high schools offer financial aid night. Typically it's in the spring, and it's put on by a financial aid person in that community. So again, I know, speaking about Ron in particular, there are certain schools that have invited us to come out. And we talk about financial aid having nothing to do with Rollins, just about the financial aid process. We walk through the FAFSA so that way they can see some of the questions that are on there and how to answer those, what they really mean. We talk about the different types of aid. So those are really good sessions for parents to attend. And they're in every community. There's lots of financial aid offices that go and do this community service to help families understand what it means. The other thing you can do is you can always do the FAFSA early on. So again, for those that are juniors, sophomores, freshmen in high school, if you want to, you can go out and complete a FAFSA. Just don't list the school on there. And just see what the questions are so you can understand the process a little bit better and be better prepared for it. And then lastly, I'd say attend one of those College Bowl Sunday events if you can, because they'll help you walk through the process. They'll knock it out the first year. And then after that, you'll be a pro at it and able to do it in subsequent years. But at the very end of it, if you have questions, like you can't emphasize enough, talk to the financial aid office of the schools that your students are interested in.
Perfect. Thank you. And then on the flip side of that, what advice would you have for students that are starting the financial aid process for the first time?
Again, it depends on what level they are. So seniors really have to move it along. If you're younger than that, again, start to map out some of these processes. So if you're an underclassman or even middle school, map out some deadlines. So figure out when it is that you're going to start doing your admission applications, when you're going to start collecting documents for the financial aid process. Talk to the financial aid office at the schools you're interested in to find out what types of forms that are required and their deadlines. And then certainly work with the high school counselors to help. They can give you guidance on what students at that school have done, where they've gone, and any of the challenges or any of the advice they can give you there. They're great resources because they've already been through it, and typically students feel comfortable with you all as counselors. So biggest part, and I'll keep coming back to those deadlines. Don't procrastinate. These are things that you gotta map out, plan to hit those deadlines on the mark. It doesn't matter whether you do it early, but you can't be late. If you're late, you could miss out on dollars, and those dollars could add up over time, because if you miss out on the first year, potentially something you'll miss out on for all 3 years.
Absolutely. Okay, and then one last question from me, and then we'll see if anyone else has anything to add. What are your 3 best tips for simplifying the financial aid process?
3 best tips. Well, I think this new change with the prior is going to be a huge simplification for families. So, again, starting in October, you can actually link your tax return you completed back in April, link your tax return to the financial aid form. It'll fill out most of the income information on there, which is great. The downside of that is it means that in December now, December, what is it, the 15th? December 15th and all of 2015 pretty much happened. So your income from this year is going to impact the first year in college down the road. So that you can't change anything. If you've taken out money out of your IRA, or if you've taken money, if you had a bonus this year, all that's going to be baked into that income to be counted. Having said that, that's where communication with the financial aid office. So the second tip is to communicate with the financial aid office. So if you have those bonuses or have withdrawals out of IRAs or 401ks or one-time increases in your income, talk to the financial aid office, see if there's anything else that they can do or help you with to help reduce your costs and offer additional grant funding for you. And the third thing, is talk to the high school, talk to the guidance counselors there at the high school, so that way they'll help you navigate the process there locally. Don't be shy. It's your finances, it's your students' finances going forward. So talk with the guidance counselors there at the high school, talk with the financial aid offices, and get to know them. They want to help you, so get to know them so they can help you out down the road.
Perfect. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions to add? Okay, well, if you decide that... Oh,
question.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Steve, thank you. You've provided so much information that a lot of my questions have been answered, but do you have any advice for families with undocumented students or that don't have the information to share on the financial aid forms?
That's a really difficult situation, and we hate it, because there really is. Unfortunately, they're left in a situation that they can't qualify for financial aid at this point. Depending on the state, there's potential for some state aid. Here in Florida, for example, there's some options for students to get a little bit of state money. Each institution can still offer their own institutional money, but that still leaves a big gap for those students in a lot of cases, and the federal money is not available. So unfortunately, there's nothing on the federal level, but talk with the financial aid office, let them know the situation, because that could be one of those cases where they might be on the borderline of getting a scholarship from the college, and because of that situation, that could put them over the top, because we know there's nothing else, there's no other options for that student, so we'll try to help out wherever we can. But again, it's working with that college to see if there's anything else they can do. Sometimes there's endowed funds with that college that they can help out, and then again, state funds. So that college will help you out kind of navigating that and letting you know what they qualify for. But unfortunately, in most cases, there really isn't a lot they can do.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Steve, what are your thoughts on advice for parents who are looking at loans?
It all depends. So what we always tell families, and Rollins is a high-priced school, our cost is significant, so we do have to see a number of parent loans, private loans out there. What we tell families is look at your bottom line first with grants and scholarships. See if there's any way that you can finance that other than through loans. Is there a monthly payment plan option you can do? And if not, then you start with student loans, and then you go on to parent loans if that's the route you want to pursue. But we always estimate it out over 4 years. So we tell families, if you're going to borrow $20,000 this year in parent loan, that's probably not changing next year. So you're going to borrow probably another $20,000 plus a little bit of cost of love. So plan on that really being an $80,000 loan by the end of the 4 years, assuming your student's here all 4 years. So then estimate out what that monthly payment's going to look like, and it's really the best financial decision for you. You can certainly look at other opportunities. You can look at home equity lines of credit, you can look at private loans, but the bottom line, it's still going to be a significant loan that family's going to have to take out. So we want families to fully understand what they're getting into first, because a lot of times families think, oh, I'll do it this year, next year my student's going to qualify for more scholarships. And that is so rare. I mean, all the schools I've been at, most students actually get less their second year in scholarships because those outside scholarships sometimes are only a 1-year scholarship. The institution usually is up for 4 years, but you got a Kiwanis Club or whatever scholarship, usually those are 1-year scholarships. So the costs typically go up. So that parent now is borrowing and continuing to borrow. So have a couple of schools out there to look at, compare, make sure it's a good fit for you, or a good fit for your student academically, but then you've got to look at the finances because it is a big bill when you get out. And the other component to that is if the student's younger, an underclassman, junior still may be a little bit older, but certainly a sophomore or freshman in high school, are there things they can do right now to help speed up their graduation through college? So could they do some dual enrollment courses? Could they do some AP courses? And if they do all that, now instead of a 4 years at college, meaning an $80,000 parent loan, maybe it's a 3-year or 3.5 year, which brings down that cost. So it's about planning. And if you haven't done that, if you're a senior in college and the parent says, nope, I'm taking that $20,000 and that's just what I'm going to do, I want them to go there, then are there things the student can do at college to graduate a little bit earlier to help alleviate some of those costs? Does that answer your question?
Oh, very great. Some nice ideas there. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions? Okay, so if you do decide later that you have a question, you can reach out to College for Every Student, and we can reach out to Steve and get those answered for you. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us for today's live chat, and I'd especially like to thank Steve Booker for joining us. I think that we all gained a lot of knowledge on the financial aid process, and it can be a tricky thing to navigate, so thank you for that. The video of today's chat will be available on our website, collegefes.org, and keep an eye out for an email about our next live chat in January.